Alright, hi everyone. I'm back with another video. So today I'm going to talk about aiming. This aiming guide will apply not only to Robocraft but to like general like games, but it will mainly be focused on Robocraft. Uh, of course, when it comes to aiming, you can't just exclude Robocraft because Robocraft has aiming aspects, and I will say this ahead of time. Aiming in Robocraft is a lot simpler. Well, not simple, but a lot easier than other games, just because of how large the enemies are usually, and how slow and predictable they move. I don't say this to belittle anyone who thinks that they're not too good at the game right now, especially in terms of aiming. But I think it's better to be blunt about this right now and say it ahead of time. But anyways, I'm gonna talk about aiming and just like give you tips how to get better at it, and I'm gonna start all the way to sensitivity. So I'd say that the number one issue of with a lot of people when it comes to aiming is their sensitivity. Now Robocraft does have an in-game sensitivity system. However, the sensitivity scale, it's not linear. It's not a straight line. So if we go to settings and we see build on fight mode, so you want to mess with fight mode speed, right? This is your sensitivity, but this is not linear. The 0 to 100, it's not a straight line of how fast it goes, how fast your movement goes. It's like a curve, like it's like an upwards curve. So it's better to just keep it at a constant value and change the DPI of your mouse. If you don't know what a DPI is, I'm not gonna explain that. Google it yourself. I'm sorry, but if you put it at 0, your DPI will not alter the game. So I recommend putting it at any value that's not 0. Okay, just any value that's not 0. So uh, how do you know if your sensitivity is too high or too low? This is rather simple. Uh, so let's say the enemy is moving. If your aim, let's put my sensitivity higher than what I usually do. If your aim looks like this, like it looks like you overshoot too much. Like let's say I want to flick to this spot right here and like do this. Like I want to aim to the center, but I'm like missing by quite a margin, right? If your aim looks like this, where it's like very quick, stuttery, you want to lower your sensitivity. Whereas, let me lower my DP. If your aim is like, let's say the enemy is moving and your aim is just like struggling to keep up, like this. I want to keep it at the center, but my movement is too fast, right? If your aim looks like this, you want to make your sensitivity higher. Yeah, that's basically it. And then you just want to experiment with this in game, and not just test frame. You want to experiment this with in game, like in like actual matches, because uh, these targets are standing still and they're quite large, and they don't really shoot you, so there's no like panic aspect. So you want to experiment in game, see what works for you best. And what works for you best is when you're able to track your enemies decently while moving. Just keep it around within the center circle for quite a bit. It doesn't have to be perfect, but like yeah, if you're able to do that to a decent extent. Right now I have my flick sensitivity on, but if I have my tracking sensitivity on, it should be a little better. But yeah, if you're able to do that, then your sensitivity should be down. Now there are also two different kinds of aiming in general. Like in other games, you're going to use these two a lot of times, but in Robocraft there are other aiming types as well. I'll get to that later, but for now let me explain it to you. There's flicks and tracking. Right? So flicks are when you go for just are usually used for like burst weapons, right? So basically what you do is this. You don't have to constantly aim at the enemy. You can like turn your gun. You can do like whatever you want. And then when you want to shoot, you just like quickly move your crosshair to your enemy and just shoot. The thing about Robocraft is that your weapon doesn't really catch up to your mouse speed a lot of the time. Like if I do this, you can see that the weapon actually is lagging behind my movement in my cursor if I do it too fast. So you want to do it at a decently slow pace. But flicks are generally when you do this. And these are used for like burst weapons, where you shoot uh you shoot a lot less. Per se, like you have burst weapons where you shoot less to deal the same amount of damage, if that makes sense. Not the same amount of damage, but I think you get the point. So basically, you shoot less. So you shoot less shots for a lot of damage. So let's say like Mega Rail, Ion, is there more? Oh, Plasma, Mega Plasma right now. It's pretty bursty. Yeah, these are the types where you want to flick. Now, there's also tracking weapons. What tracking is quite literally when you track your enemy's movement, like this. I'm not too good at tracking. I'm more of a flick type of aim. But you just want to like constantly track your enemies. And these are for like SMGs and chains mostly. And Lommel sometimes, but Lommel you only have to do it for 3 seconds, so. Yeah, this is like a tracking type of aim, where you constantly track your enemies, quite literally. And you keep them on your crosshair almost at all times while you shoot. These are... And then there's Ion and Mortar, which is a whole different category. I'll get to that right now. Alright, so I forgot to explain this, but when you track, when you want to use it for weapons where you deal damage over time, like it's not an instant burst of damage with like a few shots. You deal damage by constantly applying the damage. That's the weapons you want to use tracking for. Of course, you can use tracking for rail and like burst weapons, which... Okay, I'm gonna come back in part 2. Because, well, as you can see, I reached an error. This is quite beautiful. But... Where was I? I forgot. Fucking hell. This stupid ass game, man. Wait, what if I press OK? Okay, it works just fine. Okay. So, let's get to a bot with Ion. Let's just bring this for now. Alright, so, you can use tracking for rail and Mega Plasma and other bursty weapons. Which makes tracking arguably a more versatile and better aiming style. Arguably. But if a higher sensitivity is more comfortable for you, then feel free to just flick. But, I also forgot to mention this, but, for flicks, you want to have a higher sensitivity in general, and for tracking, you want to have a lower sensitivity. Now, what's high and low is all relative, so it doesn't quite matter which sensitivity you use precisely, but you want to have a sensitivity that you're comfortable with. That is the most important. Now, this feels so weird. Okay. Let's use Ion. Now, Ion, you don't track your well, you can track your enemy. You do track your enemies to some extent, but you don't really flick your Ion shots because Ion is weird. You don't do like a normal traditional aiming style. This type of aiming for Ion, you're not gonna use it in a lot of games. So unless you're gonna specifically main Robocraft for the rest of your life, which is probably a bad idea in my opinion. I wouldn't recommend grinding this too much, but basically you want to line up your shots. You don't want to line up your Ion with the enemy and then shoot. Of course, you want to keep your enemy the crosshair when you do shoot, but you want to basically see if your Ion is lined up with your enemy. So you like turn and then you come back and then you shoot. As the enemy is crossing by your crosshair and within line of sight your Ion, like directly in front, you shoot. Like this. So normally, if I'm positioned right here, I would do this. But if with Ion, what I would do is do this. It's a little weird, okay? Now, that is how you use Ion. And now that I'm mentioning movement, I'll get to another part. Is countering your movement with your aim. So I just said that instead of doing this, I'm gonna do this. You do this for all your weapons as well, actually, to be honest. But you do movement and aiming at the same time. So Ion, you just move your butt, but you also have to move your gun while strafing for other weapons. Like both flicks and tracking require you to do this. Now, if I want to go here to here, I move my mouse like this, okay? But if I move slightly like this, like let's say, oh no, let's say I'm here, I move to here, and I want to flick to here. This distance is not the same as when I'm moving like this and do this. So if I were to move the same distance like this, I would overshoot. So if I want to strafe this way and shoot this way at the same time, I'd have to move my mouse less to compensate for the amount I'm moving. Same if I go the other way, because I'm moving more this way, I want to move my mouse more to this side, right? And this goes for tracking and flicking. It's generally harder for you to do this while tracking, because you have to constantly do it. Whereas with flicks, you can just move around freely, just like do whatever the fuck you want. And then when you need to shoot, just put your mouse to the enemy and just shoot. But yeah, that's Ion. Now we have fucking Mortar, which is a totally different thing. Now, Mortar. I'm gonna say this ahead of time. Mortar is not as hard as people say it is. The skill floor is very low, and it's not as high as people say it is. Now, how do you aim with Mortar? Do you use a crosshair? Do you use the numbers? No. Unless you have specific lineups on each map for each angle, you almost never use a crosshair. Like you can literally play Mortar without the crosshair. So how do I play Mortar? Time. That's my answer. Play Mortar a lot. That's all you can do in my honestly. And instead of just constantly guessing what angle you have to shoot, what I personally like to do is get like a comfortable angle to shoot at. So what I like to do is like grab like a ground, I guess. Since the lowest point you can go is 5, you don't really want to do this, right? You can really see your enemies, even though it's the lowest point. What you do is grab like a comfortable angle, or just like a camera position that you want to use, where you can like look at your enemy. But if you look at your enemy, it's gonna overshoot, right? A lot of the time, unless you're like really fucking far away. No, I think it overshoots a lot of the times. Okay, this undershoots because of the range, but that's besides the point. So you want to find the ground where it's like relatively comfortable for you, and then just shoot. And you see how the AOE reaches the enemy? That's all you have. This entire fucking circle is the area you have to put your enemy in. So what I'd like to do is just like hold left click. You can just hold left click while you do this. I personally don't like to do this. I like to click individually, just to give myself a little more calculation time, like internally, while shooting. But you just want to find like a comfortable angle or like a range that you want to keep your enemies in. And if your enemy approaches you, just back off and just keep the distance. Keep your distance where you're comfortable aiming at, and then just shoot. It's that simple. It's gonna be very hard if you constantly have to adjust your angle based on where the enemy is. Like, let's say the enemy is like right here. You don't want to like go back and forth where you have to like adjust your aim like this, like this, like this, and then like, now it's too far, but now it's close enough. You don't want to do that. So you just want to keep the same distance. If your enemy approaches you, back off. If your enemy goes further, approach them, and just shoot. This is how you get started off as Mortar. And then slowly, when you begin to understand this angle, you're gonna start slightly adjust your aim to aim slightly further backwards. And with time, and I say this crucially, with time, you'll get comfortable with mortar. That's the only way to learn mortar. There are no specific techniques. Well, there are, but or like point blank mortar, but that's a different story. Like there's like this weird flick thing where you can do. But anyways, I digress. Uh, there's no like specific technique, or you don't like calculate specific numbers. You just find a comfortable angle, and you repeat it over and over and over again in your matches, and eventually you're gonna be able to shoot successfully with mortar. And I believe those are all your weapons. Now I'm just gonna go over your tracking and flicking weapons inside the inventory and finish the video. All right, selecting server. Inventory. Weapons. SMGs or lasers. Tracking. Plasma. Flicks. Rail. Uh, Flicks. Nano. It doesn't fucking matter. You're using an auto weapon. But technically tracking. Tesla. Do I have to say? Seekers. Do I have to say? It's Seekers. Okay, technically you're tracking, but it's auto aim, so it's not as hard. Seekers. Well, PSK and Lommel. These are all Seekers, but they're all technically tracking. Okay, but it's a lot easier. Flak, also technically tracking, you have to lead your shots a little more. Chain, tracking, of course. Ion, lineup and mortar movement. It's a little funky, okay? But yeah. So, why make this video? I saw some people in Top G Clan chat saying, oh, this weapon's hard, that weapon's hard, I'm having difficulties with that. I can't say that I'm the best aimer in the world. I can't say that like at all. But I'd say my aim is pretty decent. And it's good enough for me to teach this, and I want players to be more comfortable with other weapons. So yeah, I made this video, and I hope you found this helpful. If you did enjoy it, please leave a comment and give me feedback. If you didn't, then fuck you. I'm just kidding. But yeah, if you didn't and you want to know something else, then feel free to comment it, and I'll answer. Don't worry, I will answer. So feel free to do that, and I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys later. Bye bye.